Last week was a powerful reminder of just how destructive the weather can be, from the homes and businesses that were destroyed to the lives that were tragically lost. What caused Storm Babette? Why did we see such exceptionally high amounts of rainfall in some parts of the UK? And are we expecting a change in the weather this week, or will we see further rain in those areas worst hit by Storm Babette? I'm going to be trying to answer all of those questions in this week's deep dive. But before I do so, let's just take a look back at the rainfall radar over the last 5 days, and you'll just see how relentless that rain was. It set in early Thursday. This rainfall radar sequence starts at 2 p.m. on Thursday, but let's play it forward. It's set in across eastern Scotland there. Those bright colours across Angus and Aberdeenshire in particular, parts of Caithness, really you can see how they persisted overnight. The heaviest of the rain occurred on Thursday night into the start of Friday, but it was still wet through Friday. The rain eventually easing off. However, elsewhere across the UK, we saw this pulse of very heavy rain into East Anglia, the Midlands, parts of northern England, North Wales in particular, and flooding in these areas as well. But then the rain returned across eastern Scotland, northern Scotland on Saturday, exacerbating the impacts and not helping the recovery effort. Finally, through Sunday, it turned drier across many parts of the UK. Still some showers feeding into the west, but it has been a drier interlude over the last couple of days. A little breather, but we can just about show you here how much rainfall added up during Wednesday to Saturday last week. And you can see some really exceptional amounts of rain there on the map, everywhere from Northern Ireland to eastern Scotland, eastern and central parts of England. And the highest totals really across some of these eastern hills, so east-facing parts of the Peak District and the Pennines, 149 millimetres there, Redmires Reservoir, and 203 millimetres for Waterside, Perth. Now, it may be that some eastern hills of Angus and Aberdeenshire saw even higher totals and weren't sampled by a rain gauge, but nevertheless more than 200 millimetres of rain in a matter of days. That exceeds the average October rainfall in just a few days, so little surprise that it led to such devastating impacts. So what caused all of that rain last week, and what's changed this week? Well, the main thing that caused it was the fact that we had an area of high pressure situated across northern parts of Scandinavia, a blocking area of high pressure, and then we had this powerful jet stream that was running along the Atlantic there, real power in that jet stream, which helped to form areas of low pressure. And one in particular, Storm Babette, moved up from the southwest and then became parked just about here, and with the wind circulating anti-clockwise around areas of low pressure. And as that low pressure moved up against the blocking area of high pressure, the isobars squeezed together, and we had this strong wind, this gale force wind from the east-southeast. In fact, gusts of 60, 70, and I think the peak gust was 77 miles an hour, affected eastern parts of Scotland. And this low, Storm Babette, picked up an awful lot of moisture on its journey from the southwest, from the Bay of Biscay up towards the UK. So it had a lot of moisture, and we had this strong, persistent east-southeasterly for days on end, and as a result, that's an unusual direction for the UK. We normally get our weather from the west. Normally it's western parts of the UK that see the highest rainfall totals, but in this instance it was the easterly winds that brought very high rainfall totals to eastern parts of Scotland. And so in a region that gets a fair amount of rain in October, we got an exceptional amount of rain in just a few days. And it was that high pressure over Scandinavia that led to the low squeezing up against it and this persistent east-southeasterly wind. So what's changed this week? Not much, but some subtle changes have occurred in the atmosphere which will help the situation this week. We've still got the powerful jet stream running across the Atlantic, as you can see. We've still got high pressure over Scandinavia, but if we skip it forward, there's the high, if we skip it forward, say 24 hours, what you can see is that high pressure is just a bit further east. So last week it was around about here, just a bit further east. And we've still got low pressure forming along this powerful jet stream, as is typical in October. But these lows are not squeezing so much against the high pressure. They're not leading to such strong winds coming in from the east-southeast. But there are still weather fronts coming up against parts of eastern Scotland and northeast England this week. There's still a bit of an easterly airflow and there's still further rain to come through the week. However, these lows aren't picking up quite as much moisture and the winds aren't quite as strong. So that helped to limit rainfall totals. And I'm going to show the rainfall totals through the next 6 days or so across the UK in just a moment. But those factors will help to limit the rainfall totals during the rest of this week. It'll be a notch down compared with last week, both in terms of wind speed and rainfall totals. So let's just play this forward. This is the start of Wednesday. And what you can see, so whistle-stop tour for the UK's weather this week. We've got areas of low pressure moving in on this jet stream, but on the whole, low pressure is sitting out towards the west of the UK. That's the main theme this week. Low pressure sitting to the west of the UK. Some lows will form across eastern parts of England into the North Sea, but all in all, the main low is just sitting there to the west of the UK. And what that leads to, for many parts of the country, is what we call a returning polar maritime air mass. There's a number of air masses that affect the UK, and they're called names depending on whether they come from a continental or a maritime direction, or whether they come from the polar direction or a tropical direction, and so on. Now, a returning polar maritime air mass, that, if we just take polar maritime, that would be polar direction from the northwest typically, so coming out of Canada or Greenland and coming over the sea. That's the Atlantic. They're typically air masses that are cool or cold and unstable, so lots of showers. Now, returning polar maritime is slightly different. It does originate from the poles, but it comes south, overshoots the UK, and then comes north again. So typically when you've got a low pressure sitting to the west of the UK, it comes in, it dips south and then returns north. So they tend to pick up a bit more moisture and a bit more instability as they move over the warmer seas to the southwest of the UK. So what you can expect with the returning polar maritime air mass, which is what we're going to see Wednesday through to Saturday or Sunday, is lots of showers across the UK, particularly towards southwestern areas. They're the areas that are mostly affected by these showers. And relatively mild, although not exceptionally mild. Now, that's the main theme this week, this returning polar maritime airflow. But for eastern Scotland and northeast England, what you can see is weather fronts lingering and still a bit of an easterly feed from Thursday to Friday and into the weekend. We've got this easterly feed feeding moisture in from the North Sea. Not as much moisture as we saw last week, but still some moisture nevertheless. And I'm just going to show you some rainfall totals in a moment, but there's a common theme here. For most of the UK, it's returning polar maritime. It's heavy showers, some thunderstorms as well coming up from the southwest. And then later on, so into Saturday night and Sunday, another low replaces that initial low to the west and develops and comes up from the southwest. So these lows are coming in from the west and southwest, often bringing showers or sometimes longer spells of rain and blustery winds to the south and southwest. But this other common theme, eastern Scotland, northeast England, seeing a feed of more persistent rain at times through the week. So let's just play that forward and you'll see, again, a little whistle-stop tour of the UK weather for this week. For the rest of Tuesday, we've got some persistent bands of rain across northern England into southern Scotland, showers feeding in across southwestern areas. But skipping forward to the start of Wednesday, and clear skies overnight will lead to some fog patches in places. Northern Ireland into parts of Wales, Northern England, East Anglia, for example. But there are two areas of rain at first on Wednesday. There's this area that is a little frontal feature that runs along the south of England and South Wales overnight. And that does clear through the morning. So that does, wet morning, yeah, but that does push away to the southeast. Then we've got this other persistent easterly flow setting in across eastern Scotland, parts of northeast England. So cloudy, damp, but nothing particularly large in terms of rainfall accumulations through Wednesday. Elsewhere, after the early mist and fog cliffs, actually Wales, the Midlands, Northern Ireland, southwest England seeing plenty of fine and bright weather. But at this stage, a weather front starting to feed into the southwest of England, and by 4 p.m. or so you've got the wind picking up and Cornwall turning a little wet. Again, we've got that rain continuing in eastern Scotland, but the showery rain towards the southeast by the end of the afternoon is pushing away. So a drier interlude, a 6 to 9 hour period of mainly dry conditions. Western Scotland, sunny spells, mostly dry here because of the easterly airflow. And then skipping forward to Thursday, again, a few mist and fog patches possible where we've got clear spells overnight. But the rain that moves into the southwest, that's tracking across the country so that by early Thursday, it's into the southeast as well as the East Midlands, East Anglia, and pushing out towards northwest England and Northern Ireland. Now, playing that forward, I'm just going to pause it there. And what you can see is some heavier pulses developing on that rain in the east of England as a small area of low pressure potentially forms along that. And that's one watch point over the next few days. And I'm going to talk a bit more about the uncertainties involved with that area of rainfall in just a moment. But elsewhere, we've got continued rain or showers across eastern and southern Scotland. Northern Ireland seeing a few showers by the afternoon. Wales and the southwest seeing some heavy showers. This is that returning polar maritime airflow setting in. So we've got a southwesterly feed and we've got some heavy downpours interspersed by sunny spells and fairly mild, but yeah, plenty of showers and quite lively showers at that with gusty winds. Now into, when's this, Thursday night, we've got the rain or showers continuing across eastern Scotland, northeast England, further showers feeding into the south and southwest, parts of Northern Ireland and Wales. And really this is how it looks on Friday. Rain or showers across eastern Scotland, plenty of showers for Northern Ireland and Wales, the south and southwest of England. That's the returning polar maritime air mass that we've got through the next few days. In between, a lot of fine weather. Western Scotland, again, the place to be for dry and bright weather. Northwest England also faring well, as well as East Anglia, a gap there after a potentially wet day on Thursday. Further showers feeding around the whole of the UK on Friday night. And the showers increasingly blustery, quite strong winds coming in to the southwest as that next low starts to appear. And that really makes an appearance on Saturday night. So this is going into Saturday afternoon. And what you'll see is this increase in rainfall coming along into the south and southwest. Obviously, this is 5 or 6 days ahead. So some uncertainty about the track of this low. But it could be that on Saturday night it turns increasingly wet and windy in the south. Again, we've got this persistent feed of rain into the east of Scotland. So essentially there are a number of features that are persisting through the next few days until the end of the weekend. We've got those heavy downpours, the lively showers across many parts of the south and the west. That's the returning polar maritime air mass. And then eastern Scotland, northeast England often seeing outbreaks of rain waxing and waning through the rest of the week and into the weekend, but some rain building up. So if we run that through as a animation, building up the rain over time and represent it as 3D bars, what you can see is that initially through Wednesday and into Thursday, these bars starting to rise out of the map across the south and southwest, and elsewhere across the UK, quite a bit of rainfall, but Western Scotland, western parts of Northern Ireland, northwest England actually avoiding much of this. And then later in the week, a pulse of heavier rain increasing the size of those bars, and the colours indicating that we could see 100 millimetres plus across parts of Aberdeenshire in particular. And actually, as the map zooms out there, you can see the focus there, just the west of Aberdeenshire. Not in exactly the same place as we saw the highest rainfall totals last week, although some uncertainties about this. And also another area, just a slice along the coast there of southeast England, seeing some significant rainfall totals as well, because there's a couple of bands expected to go through over the next few days. So largest rainfall totals through the rest of the weekend and the weekend. the south and the southwest of the UK, but also eastern parts of Scotland. And playing that through once again, you can see how it's Thursday night into Friday, those totals really start to add up, and then into the weekend as well. Another pulse of rain with 100 millimetres or more over some of the higher parts, the east-facing hills of Aberdeenshire, perhaps Angus as well. Hopefully not exacerbating things too much, but any additional rainfall obviously over the next few days is not going to be at all welcome. But this is around half the amount of rain that we saw last week and spread over a slightly longer period of time. So that's one way of visualising the rainfall totals over the next few days. Another interesting way I thought you might like are these confetti plots. Now this is the UK here, and this shows midday tomorrow, midday Wednesday at the time of recording, it's tomorrow. And if you imagine you take each of these colours, say a red colour or a blue colour, that represents one model run from the Met Office Ensemble Suite, and there are 34 runs, okay? And each colour represents the rain position at midday on Wednesday. So what we've got here are 34 different colours showing 34 different representations of the rain position, and this is really handy. These are called confetti plots for obvious reasons. It's really handy for looking at the location of where we're going to get the showers and also where we're likely to see dry weather. So where you've got no confetti, it's most likely to be dry because none of the computer model runs, none of these 34 runs are showing rain across, say, most of Wales, Northern England, Western Scotland, Northern Ireland at this time on Wednesday. There's lots of different colours here to the southwest. That's that band of rain that's moving in later Wednesday, but some uncertainty about how far into the southwest that appears, hence the different colours. Likewise, the showers that are clearing East Anglia and the southeast, as well as eastern Scotland, represented by different colours, but actually most of the UK, as this shows, dry at midday Wednesday. So we've got the showers clearing from the east, we've got the rain appearing in the southwest, in between none of these confetti colours across the map. Conversely, skipping ahead to Friday, a very showery day for most of us. And this shows, you might not be able to see the UK very clearly under all of the confetti, but here's Scotland in the north here. There's East Anglia, there's southwest England, and as you can see, lots of confetti across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, Wales, and the southwest. That just indicates, as well as the far southeast, that just indicates that there's likely to be some showers. The different colours represent different model runs. They disagree about exactly where and when we'll see the showers on Friday, but certainly there's that chance across the south and the west. Conversely, East Anglia, we've got no colours. Western Scotland, mostly clear of it. So that just indicates there that by Friday, after the spell of rain potentially goes through on Thursday, East Anglia and the west of Scotland mostly dry. Eastern Scotland, meanwhile, seeing quite a few of these colours, so that persistent rain. Now, I also mentioned that there's the potential for low pressure to pep up the rain on Thursday in the east of England. And one way of showing that is this. Again, it takes all the different computer model runs from the Met Office model, and it plots the low pressure centre from each of these model runs as a colour. The colour represents the depth of the low. So the main low is going to be sitting out to the west of the UK, and this is Thursday, by the way, at midday. And we've got the main low sitting to the west, and typically these colours represent 975, 980 millibars, or hectopascals. Then there's a few of the computer model runs that are picking up another low just off the East Anglia coast there. And it's a less deep low, but showing generally 990, 995 hectopascals, but not all of the models are picking up that low. And this just shows you a sample. This is from one model that isn't picking out the low. We've got the main low there to the west, no low there to the east, and then another one that does pick out the low. Main low there to the west, one low there. And if that happens, if we get this circulation forming on Thursday as the rain clears the east of England, then it will just pep up the rain. It will make it last a bit longer in the east of England. And it looks fairly likely, given a number of computer model runs that are suggesting a low now, that a little shallow low will form off East Anglia, enough to pep up the rain for a time before that clears, and then on Friday, as you saw, it's mostly dry across East Anglia and the East Midlands. But yeah, that's just another interesting aspect of the forecast I thought I'd bring out. Oh, by the way, while we're on this, this is the total rainfall so far this October up till yesterday, up till the 23rd. And the blues show where the rainfall so far this month has exceeded the October average. You can see quite a large swathe across the Midlands into the east of England, northeast England there, and eastern Scotland. And some of these darker blues indicate more than twice the October rainfall so far this month. But there's some browns as well, so rainfall has been highly variable. The brown areas indicating where we've seen less than the October rainfall. At this point of the month, you'd typically expect around 68, which is this shade of brown. Some areas have had a drier than average October so far, mainly southwest Scotland, Cornwall. So that's quite interesting as well. Where are we? Have we covered everything? Thursday's low. Bit of fog tonight. I think I mentioned that in some central parts. And finally, how long will the unsettled weather last? I know that's what a lot of people have been crying out for. Bit of a change in things after last week's terrible weather, and this shows the most likely weather pattern for the last day of October, so for Halloween. And the main indications are that through the weekend we've got that next low coming up to bring some wet and windy weather potentially to the south of the UK for a time before that clears away. And as that clears away, the start of next week, it pushes into Scandinavia. There are some indications that we'll get a colder but generally drier air feed from the north, and that might just be a temporary thing, because then there are signs that low pressure will return. Looking further ahead into November, things at the moment are fairly finely balanced between the blocking high returning to Scandinavia and having an influence on the UK, and further lows coming in from the west. And as explained in previous deep dives and 10-day trend and so on, we've got El Nino at the moment in the Pacific, and that tends to help unsettled weather affect the UK in October and November. So on balance, if the computer models are finely balanced between high pressure and low pressure, but we've got this El Nino happening, you would slightly favour the low pressure, the unsettled weather continuing. So further spells of rain and wind, and mild for the time of year. But a lot of uncertainty at the moment when you look into November. So I'm sure we'll cover that more in the next few days and weeks. Alex Burker will be covering the 10-day trend tomorrow. Make sure you don't miss that. And he'll have more on the longer range. But for now, thank you for joining me. If you enjoy these deep dives, please don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss one in the future. And it will help us justify doing more of these in the future as well. Bye-bye.